Well, socialism has a bad effect on people's pockets, and it also has a terrible effect on people's use of language. I don't know what it is about socialism, but as soon as somebody starts talking socialism, language degenerates into meaninglessness a lot of the time. And I have a great example of this with a gentleman called Matthew Stadlen, probably. Okay, I'm Granniopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. And as you see, I'm back in my natural element as well. I finally got home and I can come into my studio and I have civilized lighting and all the rest of it. Isn't that nice? All right, let's just have a look at this little video, this little clip, which GB News has put out. So first of all, they're going to ask Mr. Stadlen a question.
Chris is talking there about the disappointment that Labour won't come on this channel at the moment to discuss these issues. What does that tell you about their willingness?
By the way, that's something else we have about socialism. When they don't want something discussed, they don't discuss it. It's sort of too much mental effort, I suppose, to actually think things through instead of just spouting a party line. But that's not the kicker here. Let's carry on.
To have open, free and uncensored debate.
I would support Labour ministers coming on GB News.
She wasn't asking him whether he'd support it. She was asking him what he thought of the fact that they don't come on to GB News, that they won't come to be interviewed. And yeah, that's typical too.
Make their points, make their arguments and call out the vicious violence that we've seen.
Now, do you see that? Again, instead of just answering the question about what he thinks about the various members of the Labour Party not wishing to turn up at a GB News interview, he's now going into the party line about the vicious violence and all the rest of it, which is reasonable enough to criticise if he'd been asked about that. But no, sort of sliding, I think that's called elision, isn't it? Sliding off the subject into something else.
In recent days that has marred communities and seriously damaged our great country's reputation.
No. Our country's great reputation, I suppose that's going to be overseas. Hang on.
I was shocked.
Right, yeah, overseas. Everybody thinks this country is in a bit of a mess right now. I don't think anything that's happened here will mar our reputation any more than our reputation has already been marred. Let us proceed.
Some of that analysis by Christopher, you don't go and say to Muslim children in Rotherham or other parts of the country and say, I'm really sorry that you're terrified.
Just a minute. I am myself sorry about children being terrified. Perhaps he might have spoken about the non-Muslim children who you can't say you're sorry about them being terrified because they're not around anymore. That doesn't seem to figure in his universe. Of course, bullying children, well, anyone who's watched my channel for any length of time know how very upset I get about children being attacked. But that has to go across the board, of course, which doesn't seem to be part of Mr. Stadlen's ability to comprehend. All right.
Sorry that racist thugs seem to be going door to door in Middlesbrough of ethnic communities, ethnic minority communities, throwing bricks in the windows. But
I can believe that that had happened. But then I have videos which show people of certain ethnic origin chasing people of another ethnic origin with axes, according to them. I don't know whether you've seen that on YouTube. I have. I'm not going to put it up here. I have to be a little bit careful now. However, I shall merely say that there appear to be some people in a park of one particular fairly light complexion and some other people in the park of a somewhat darker persuasion, and they are chasing the lighter people with, well, I wouldn't call them lighter because one of them seemed particularly heavy. However, leave that aside. They were chasing them with axes. So they, and there were children around there as well. And I'm quite sure that they were quite, well, nervous. Just ever so slightly nervous. He is not acknowledging that it's happening in the other direction as well.
People in this country who are fed up with mass migration. No, you call it out for what it is. And what we've been witnessing in Britain in the last few days have been pogroms.
Pogroms. Let's just have a look at what a pogrom is. A pogrom is a violent riot incited with the aim of massacring or expelling an ethnic or religious group, particularly Jews. The whole thing started with Jews. That is, it's a Russian expression applied to the Russian practice of moving Jews along or cleaning a village of Jews by, well, just going in and killing, assaulting in various ways, and in other words, ethnic cleansing. What has happened to Muslims in places like, well, Stoke, is not a pogrom. There may be violence, and there's violence in the other direction as well. And this is not a pogrom, but this is what I wanted to talk about, the degeneration of language when the left get at that language. For instance, the word genocide, how that's been applied to what's happening in Palestine, when by no definition of any sort can genocide be applied. Genocide refers to an attempt to kill everybody in a certain ethnic group. Now, only the madder ends of the left and the more fanatical of the Palestinians will really believe that the Jews are trying to kill every Arab in the Middle East. So, again, they've taken the word genocide and degenerated it into an act of war. Whether it's an act of war that you like or you think is legal is another matter, but it's not genocide. And Mr. Stadlen is now referring to riots or demonstrations with more violent aspects to it from certain quarters, which is not nice and definitely should not happen. However, it is not a pogrom. It is simply undisciplined, violent people taking advantage of a situation. But he's using the word pogrom. And isn't it odd how the left have taken the language of violence directed towards Jews, a violence which is certainly murderous, genocidal and ethnic cleansing-ish. Well, I'm sorry, I can't think of a word to use there, but I hope you understand what I mean. They've taken those words and applied them to Muslims. They have sort of stolen the concept and then degenerated it to making some Muslim children frightened. It's not nice, but it's not genocide and it's not a pogrom. But that's how Stadlen, isn't it odd that they take from the horrible things that have happened to Jews and just dilute it and then apply it to someone else, to some other group. And it's only Jews. Oh, and yes, they were referring to Gaza as a concentration camp. It's like everything awful that happened to the Jews, the left have this compulsion to steal that horrible history from the Jews and apply it to the peuple de jour in their particular book. I don't understand it. It's like they don't want to give the Jews credit for anything, even for being killed.
Look, the issue is, if you use a word like pogrom and you use phrases like far right, we completely take out the power, because we need words to describe atrocities and atrocious political positions as those phrases do. So we have to be really careful about the language we use around this issue.
I think that's enough of Stadlen. I just wanted to point out how the left degenerate language. Whenever they get hold of anything, they suck the meaning out of it. Okay, till next time. You can help my channel by clicking like, by subscribing, by clicking the notification bell, and by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels are in the description, also links to donation sites, but really the best way you can help me is simply by clicking like. Thank you.